Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Braden, and I'm the SVP of Sales for EnsoData. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today to learn more about our scoring automation product, EnsoSleep. A couple of housekeeping things before we get going. We do have quite a few people that registered and have logged in, so everybody's lines are muted to cut down on the background noise, but we do want this to be very interactive and make sure that there's time for questions at the end. So as I'm going along, if you have questions, you can see in your GoToWebinar control panel that there's a place where you can type them in. So go ahead and type them in as we're going along, and then I'll try to get to them all by the time we get through. And if not, we'll have somebody reach out to you afterwards to make sure that we get your questions answered. Okay, let's dive in. Obviously, you don't need to see me because you get me live today. Our agenda today, this is an overview of our product EnsoSleep. We do a ton of educational webinars, lots of things for different educational credit. This is actually very specifically about our product itself, EnsoSleep. We're going to take a little bit of time to look at some of the other things that we have as well, but it will be an overview of EnsoSleep. You're going to see it in action as best as I can show a couple of demonstrations in some of the different software options that are out there. And then I want to share some of the data behind EnsoSleep because things are always great as long as they work, right? So I want to make sure that everybody feels they have the information they need from a clearance perspective, and then real life examples of how EnsoSleep works and what the data looks like. And then we have a wide range of people that have registered, from people we recently talked to at trade shows that I think are close to making the jump and implementing EnsoSleep in their practice. So I do want to talk a bit about next steps as well. So let's go ahead and get started. This is a slide that I think is terribly obvious for everybody. But healthcare is changing, right? We're constantly being asked to do more. Very oftentimes it's more with less. Patients have higher expectations. Most of the clinics that I speak with, the practices, the sleep labs, the clinics, they're short-staffed or their staff is overworked. I think between COVID, patient expectations, labs being shut down, different things happening, reimbursement changes, reimbursements being cut, there's a lot on our plates. So this is not something that really surprises anybody. It's really the state of the world that we're living in. And we'd like to think that we might have an option to help sleep in particular adjust to some of those changes and perhaps even thrive. So what does sleep in specific look like compared to the other health areas? There's a lot on the plates of sleep care clinics. One of the things that we know is sleep is not necessarily, everybody knows they need sleep and everybody knows it's important, but people don't oftentimes think about it with the health severity that it has. So awareness, making sure patients and even referring providers and other people, if you are in a private sleep lab, making sure your network knows the importance of getting patients screened and tested for sleep. If you are in a health system or a hospital, making sure that the other areas know the impact that our sleep labs can have on their patients that they're working with. So getting the awareness out there is really something that we own in our sleep care continuum. Screening, so if people know about it, we can't screen everybody. Maybe we could eventually screen everybody, but how do you find the right patients that have high risk assessment or high risk, get them assessed and screened? Once you do that, you either get those referrals, you've got to do the testing, right? Do they need a PSG? Do they need an HST? What sort of pre-authorizations are there? After they get tested, scoring those studies, and then coming up with the diagnosis, putting them into treatment, and then making sure that they are compliant and they adhere to the best treatment, finding the best treatment. Oftentimes they don't do well on one thing and then you move them to another, right? So there's so much more to this. I realize this is like simple and complex of everything that you guys have going on, but this is where we think we'd like to help, right? There's a lot to do, and very often people don't have enough time to do it. So where we think EnsoSleep can fit in are the clinics or the labs or the practices that people are not leaving at the end of the day with a big smile saying, you know what was fantastic about today? I got everything crossed off my list. all of the patients I needed to contact and see were seen, treated, everybody's compliant, we're good, right? I mean, I know I jest about that, but I've spent a lot of time recently, yay, in person at some of the events, from being in Arkansas to Missouri to the sleep meeting, actually getting to talk to labs. And what we're finding, no surprise, is people are not leaving the day feeling like they got everything covered, right? We're hearing that it's harder and harder to cover staff shortages. We were talking to a sleep lab the other day that they are having a hard time figuring out ways to give their staff time off because they just get absolutely buried. Everybody's so important in their lab, as it should be, but they're so buried when somebody takes time off. They're looking at actually outsourcing just so that they can take care of their fantastic staff and allow them to take time off without having everybody feel like it's a giant burden on what gets missed when somebody's out of the office. So with that, covering that burnout for the team, you know, most of the people we talk to have fantastic staff, and they'd like to find ways that they can help assist them and make sure that their team is not getting burned out. It's really hard today, I think, with everything going on in healthcare, and it's really important that we remember we have to take care of the patients, but our own health is important in making sure that your team has the tools that they need and they're able to achieve the things that they want to achieve. Can really help. People don't like feeling like they're drowning or they can't get to everything that they need to get done. So that's something that hopefully we might be able to help with. Bed utilization, I can't say how, well, actually I can say, in the last couple of weeks, I've talked to 4 physicians that said they're not getting their beds filled because their night staff is drowning. All 4 of those physicians actually said their night staff is so fantastic, but they've got so much on their plate that very often they have studies that don't get scored, that the physicians are scoring if they were supposed to score them on the fly, right? So it's tough to, if you're short-staffed or just the patients have more severity that are coming in, for everybody to take care of everything they need to do, which very often means that you're not taking advantage of all the beds that you have. When you have a referral backlog, that's not great, right? You have patients that are lined up to be seen and you have beds, but you just don't have the bandwidth to get them filled. That can be exhausting for everybody. Scoring backlog, since we do score studies with our software, that's probably an obvious one. Outsourcing can be costly and sometimes hard to find. And then people would, you know, heaven forbid, if we could get to everything we need to do, what if we could consider expanding programs? Another thing that we'd like to try to help with. So how do I propose that we have the ability to actually find time for you? It's our product EnsoSleep. So at a glance, EnsoSleep is study scoring automation that actually works. That's a nice nuance to know. It's great to have study scoring automation, but if it doesn't work, your team spends more time dealing with it than actually relying on it. So EnsoSleep is an artificial intelligence sleep test scoring. So that's the difference between EnsoSleep and other options that maybe you've tried in the past. It was actually the algorithm learns from scored studies. So studies that were scored by clinicians, the algorithm, the artificial intelligence, was actually trained on picking up those things, and it's night and day difference on the results that it gets, and hopefully you'll get a chance to see that when I share some of the data that I talked about earlier. So it's artificial intelligence sleep scoring, and it enables your technologists to edit or review and make the changes rather than having to score from scratch. The result of that is typically at least 50% reduction in the time that they spend scoring the studies. So there's where we're going to give you some time and hopefully relieve some of the pressure on your team. So it is also compatible with all major viewing and scoring software. It does run in the background. I do not love this image, but yeah, I'm sure this is nothing at all what your lab looks like, but you assume a patient comes in, has their sleep study or does a sleep study at home, and then at some point that file, that bit of information, that unscored study is sitting on a computer. And basically the magic of EnsoSleep is EnsoSleep will grab that unscored study, move it up into the cloud here, score the study, and put it right back on the computer whereas in your technologists, your RPSGTs, your physicians, sometimes the physicians are the ones that are logging in, will then log in, review the study, make sure things were done well, change things that need to be changed, make their adjustments, and then move on with their day, get that diagnosis and take care of the patient. So that's where we get the time of about 50% reduction. Couple of numbers, and then I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demonstrations so that you can see the software. It's kind of hard to show because it literally is a scored study happening kind of magically by the artificial intelligence, but I have a couple of examples of how it works on some of the software programs, so hopefully that'll help give a sense of it. But just so you know, EnsoSleep, by the numbers, over 500 locations, 32,000 sleep studies being scored every month. Over 200,000 patients have been helped with their diagnosis by our customers for OSA. We have over 1 million total sleep studies in our database. So if you want to talk about the power of artificial intelligence and being able to partner in sleep, it's pretty tremendous. We do have happy customers that stick around. We're really proud of the people that we're able to partner with and the ways that we're able to help them achieve what they're trying to do or even relieve some of the pressure in their lab. So 4.5 out of 5 stars on Capterra, 95% retention, and then as I mentioned, more than 50% time saved. And our AHI agreement is at over 90%, 93%. Okay, now let's take a look at what this means or what the workflow looks like in your office. So this is going to be an example of in Sandman. Just a caveat, you can see down here we've got Sandman and the Enso data dashboard. Typically, the RPSGTs, the technologists, don't spend time in the Enso data dashboard. But for you to, it's kind of like when you watch a cooking show and they put something in the oven and then they take something out. I just have it in this video so that you can get a sense of kind of what's going on in the background. But keep that in mind. If you're using Sandman, for example, in the office, this is what only the Sandman part is really what they're going to be seeing. So I'll go ahead and hit play. Your day team will come in the morning, open up Sandman and scan for all new media. This is going to pull up any files that were completed overnight. We have a study that was completed for Remy, so this is unscored. At this point, they're going to grab that study and move it to another folder where EnsoSleep will go ahead and grab it. It disappears. Now here's the magic. It's going in the oven and then we're going to take a cooked one out. This is not typically what RPSGT would do, is not go look in the cloud and make sure it showed up there, right? It's just up there getting scored. They're probably going to get a cup of coffee, coming back to their desk, and once they sit back down, again, probably not even looking in this, they will just open up Sandman again, or it's probably open. They're going to scan again. And then you're going to see that now Remy's study is actually in the scored studies folder and not in the new folder, right? From here, they can open it up to edit, and literally they're going to open a study and it's going to look like it was scored by somebody. But it's going to have that fantastic agreement of over 93% on the AHI. So that's it. In their workflow, they will come in, score this or scan for studies, move it to the cloud, which we can actually automate with most of the partners as well. Get their cup of coffee. It takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, well, even less if it's an HST or HSAT. But the PSG is about 10 to 12 minutes to get scored. So typically they'll drag things over or just start things running, go get their cup of coffee, and then they come back, they sit down, they open the studies, and they're scored. From here, they're able to go through and make the changes. The next example I want to give is in Cadwell. They did this great video for us with the partnership, and it's very similar. They actually created this. It's kind of cool because they have a split screen, but it's the same concept. So if we take a look at the EZ3 integration, it's basically going to show up as ready to score. So the study is complete and ready to be reviewed. From here, they're going to go ahead and grab it and move it to the cloud, which is how Enso Data grabs it, or EnsoSleep grabs it, and then they analyze it and score it and push it back. Same thing, it takes maybe 10 to 12 minutes for the studies to be scored. And then you'll see, here's the magic cloud part over on the left side of the screen, and on the right side of the screen, you can see the EZ3 software. And as soon as EnsoSleep is done scoring it, we'll go into the EZ3 software and hit refresh, and then you'll see that it automatically updates from ready to score to Enso scored. And then right there, you open it in the EZ3 software and make your adjustments as needed. So it's a little funny to think about how easy it is and how hard it is to explain, because really to the people using it, it just looks like they have a scored study to review, which is great. Okay, the other thing that I want to show is, here is our dashboard or viewer. I don't have access in my office to actually dig in and move things around in like a Sandman or the EZ3. So I will just show a little bit in our own software. This is an additional product that we do have. It is not something that you need to use, but it does allow for me to actually get in and show you a little bit more of how the scoring works since I have access to it. So this is our Enso data. This is our viewing software. So you can see in here, I've got PSG's HSTs already complete. So I can click on this scoring. You can set, there's so many configurations that you can set up with any of the softwares that you use. And so my configuration was set up to score at 3% for DSATs. I can also adjust it to 4% right here, and then it'll just rescore the study at 4%, but I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna open up a new study. I need to come up with a name. We'll do test. And from here, it's gonna pull up my study. It's gonna score everything. And I'll just give you a sense of how easy it is to review and score. Again, if you have multiple devices in your lab, a bunch of different HST devices, or if you had different PSG, it might be something that you might want to consider using our viewing software, because it does allow you to pull up studies from any of the devices, basically, but you do not have to use it. So this would be something that would be done in whatever EZ3 or whatever you're using in your office. I'm going to change the view of this to make it 2 minutes. And then I'm just going to hit a shortcut here to rescale everything. And then we can pop through. And you'll see it's a scored study. So that's the idea. You have the ability to come in here and change the events, to add events, delete events, adjust events as you need. And this would be exactly what you would be doing in your existing software program. Okay, so again, this is our viewer, doesn't have to be used. If you have a bunch of different providers that are looking to get access to the studies and the reports, and you have multiple devices, it might be something that you also might want to consider adding on with the scoring. But this is what EnsoSleep looks like. It's just a scored study. All right. Now, oops, I wanted to show something else. I promised that I would share some data. So if you go to our website, on the bottom, we have the ability for you to take a look at our clearance information. So this is our FDA clearance, where you can find a ton of stuff. And at the very end, I have a link to our website so that you'll have very easy access to it. But this is our performance document. So you can come in here and you can see by the numbers what we do, how we do it, what our indications are. Okay, so I just like to share this, indications for use, hold on, I wanna just, the events that we're able to detect, and then the numbers as well. I don't wanna scroll too fast because I don't wanna make people sick, but I just wanna scroll down quickly so that you can see the numbers, okay? So that's the performance information that we got from, that we submitted with our clearance. We have received our second clearance in August of last year because the algorithm just keeps getting better. So you have access to that. But what I really wanna focus on is, what does that mean? The so what of that. Like, numbers are great, but again, only if they really can make the impact in your clinic that you need. So I pulled up a couple of examples from our existing customers just to give you a sense of what that actually means. So what does that mean? So this first example was one of our customers that has 2 locations. And the reason they reached out to us is they had a tremendous backlog. Actually, they had a backlog as they went into COVID, and it just got worse during COVID. So they listed 3 goals that they said, all right, this is what we are looking to achieve by putting EnsoSleep into our 2 locations. And these 2 graphs below are 2 different locations within the same sleep lab. So reduce the backlog or acquisition to report generation that was taking them 8 days down to 2 days. Reduce the time that their RPSGTs were spending scoring their PSGs from 45 minutes to 25 minutes or less. And then they thought, well, it's great, but we need to make sure that our agreement is above 90%. So their AHI, their RDI, and their arousals and staging had to be above 90%. And then, to no surprise to us, maybe a little to them, hopefully not at this point with over 500 locations using EnsoSleep, but we met all of their expectations. So let me take you through this graph. I had not looked at scatter plots for a very long time until I came in here and started working with customers on these. But basically, what we're looking at over here, we're looking at AHI alone in this graph, and the technologists' findings are on the horizontal, and then the Enso is on the vertical here. So basically, the closer to the center these dots are means they were in alignment. They came up with the same number. If it hits right on that dot, it means they basically got the exact same number for AHI. And then if you look at the little blue above here, it's the same thing. So this is what the technology, hopefully you guys can see my mouse, the technologist AHI over here on the left, and then in the top is the EnsoSleep AHI. So you can see for no OSA, they both agreed 30 times. Out of there were 318 studies scored. So if you add all these numbers up, that's what you'd get. For mild, it was 18, moderate, 16, and severe. Look, there was no disagreement on severe for this location. And then the second location, overall, they got 87%. And then you can see the same thing, the technician and EnsoSleep 17 times. And then you can see if there was any misalignment at all and how few there was after the adjustments. But that's why you have a technologist or an RPSGT go in, take a look, and make sure that there's no additional changes that need to be done after EnsoSleep scores the study. So the thing that I want to add too is this was at about 6 months. I'm going to give example number 2 that actually came in from an existing customer that was looking to expand, and you can see the software just keeps getting better and better. Our customer success team is fantastic. We have clinicians on the team, RPSGTs, as well as engineers that are able to work with a clinic. We need feedback and partnership from the clinics on what parts of the scoring we're finding alignment and what parts maybe there might be some disagreements with, because we're able to change settings to make sure that we have things configured in a way that the algorithm is going to support your needs. Things like that 3% versus 4%. I think when you start out, there's 42 customizations that we're able to ask you about, and then we can continue to tweak ongoing to make sure that it's getting what you need. But the idea is get the right diagnosis and free up more time from the people who are scoring the studies to either get to additional studies or get to additional things in the lab, or heaven forbid, take a vacation. So this is a separate agreement on example 3, and this is on staging instead of AHI. There were over 4,500 studies in a month. This was a really high volume account. You can see N2, people typically say, well, where do you guys not agree the most? And it's typically N2, which I hear is also where tech to tech, typically there is less agreement. So you can really see the agreement, the accuracy, and the so what of looking at that clearance data. It means we can get faster outcomes and really relieve some of the pressure on the team. Okay, I did have a couple of questions pop in. Let me take a look quick. Oh, on devices. Okay, perfect. Yes, I'll make sure that we send you specifics. It looks like the question came in was asking about Cadwell. I'll find out specifically on the integrations with Cadwell. I joke people either get the benefit or the disadvantage of working with me as I run the team. Sometimes though, those specific questions throw me off, so I'll find out devices for you. All right, as I mentioned, we have a lot of people at different stages with their exploration of EnsoSleep on. So I do want to make sure that I cover, you know, the what's next. If you have additional things, if you're looking to implement EnsoSleep, and then also if you're not even sure yet, so that you have an idea once you make the decision that we might be able to help you, what that looks like. So as I mentioned, we really need feedback from the people that are scoring the studies to get things to work the way that will blow your socks off and give you that time to chase all the stuff that you need to get to, the stuff that is keeping you from feeling like you've completed everything on your list at the end of the day. So we give you 60 days where you're not paying for the scoring of the studies. Basically, we're waiving that implementation fee as our commitment to you guys that we're gonna hold hands right from the beginning and get this right and get your results and your outcomes the same as some of the examples I shared earlier. So in the beginning, you get 60 days, no implementation fee, and you're not paying for the studies to be scored. The kickoff is basically a scoping call where you talk to our fantastic customer success team. They get a sense for your lab, they get a sense for your preferences, they give you that document that I said. We call it our pre-flight checklist so that you can fill out your preferences, the way things should be scored. We use the AASM guidelines and rules as the algorithm was built, but everybody's got some nuances that they want to make sure that it's able to meet the requirements of their clinic. That's what we discuss, and that's what happens in the scoping call, getting all of that stuff aligned. From there, we install, remember I said when something gets into a folder, EnsoSleep will just automatically grab it and score it and then put it back. That means there's one little piece of local software that's in the office typically. I've sat in on these calls and I'm not very tech savvy, but I can tell you they take maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes they might take a little longer if you need to have it on more than one computer, but it's pretty quick. We have yet to not pass a security risk assessment from a health system or a clinic. It's a very secure local installation and it's super easy to do. Once we get it installed, you have your 2 weeks typically of quality assurance. And this is where we put the studies through. We take a look, we take some scored studies that you did, we take a look at how EnsoSleep would score it, and we get a sense if we've got those configurations right up front, and we make any adjustments that we need. From there, you start scoring studies with EnsoSleep. We allow another 2 to 6 weeks for that because we like to call it kind of our feedback circle. So as it's scoring, as EnsoSleep scores the studies, and then your scoring team, your RPSGTs, log in and review the changes. If there's a lot of stuff they're changing, you got to give the feedback to the customer success team because we can get that tweaked and get things moving. I will tell you, the more customers we get, the more familiar we get with all of the different devices. There are many devices that after the 2 weeks of quality assurance, it's really scoring the software pretty well. Some of the newer devices might take, you know, another 2, 3, 4 weeks, but you get 6, you get that entire 2-month period to get things rolling. And then by the end of that, you should feel really good at the way that the software is assisting your team. And you should really start seeing some of that time savings by the end. And then we just ask you to remember, we can do ongoing configurations and workflow enhancements. We've added some additional things with the success team. Quarterly business reviews to see how we're doing, making sure the team is happy, see if there's anything else that we can help you with. As I mentioned, we now have that viewing software. We can also track total sleep time on home sleep tests, which is pretty amazing. It allows for, I think, more reliability in those tests because it's just not wearing time. The algorithm, so fantastic, it's actually able to detect if a patient is awake or asleep. That also can have some impact with the codes that you use, which is fantastic. So these quarterly business reviews, you have a clinician meet with you, talk about how things are going, and make sure there's not something additional that you might need from us or just things that we can help with. Our PSGT ride along is super cool. It's a newer product or a newer offering. It's included with your ongoing support, where one of our PSGTs, one of our own clinical team, will just virtually sit alongside somebody on your team and just watch how they score and see if there's little suggestions that they have that might that somebody may not think to give us feedback on ways that we can work together, but then they might be able to have a suggestion on a tweak that we can make on our end just to make things a little bit easier for the team. So that's super cool, just pairing up. And then you will have a BFF. So you will have a person that if you just need a silly question, an important question, an urgent question answered, you can reach out to your BFF. So this is where I run the sales and marketing team, so I can spend a little time. I think my team's great too, but I can brag a bit on our customer success team. We did some interviews with our existing customers, and as much as I'd like to say that all they did was talk about the sales team, they just went on and on about how the customer success team is just best in the business that they've worked with, and it makes a big difference, especially when you want to make sure that you're getting that feedback and getting things that you need. All right. Oh, I forgot I had 2 surveys that I was going to do. So let me kick out the first one. As I was talking about more time, I should have done a better job of finding out where could you use more time in your clinic. Is your team drowning? Are you short-staffed? Do you have referral backlogs, scoring backlog, or are you just looking to grow? Like I said, we've had quite a few practices that needed to add additional locations as well. So perfect. All right, and then as we close the poll out, it looks like we're at about 50% too much to do and short-staffed, which doesn't surprise me at all. I know that I kind of tossed this in late, so I know that some of the people on here I've actually talked to that they actually have some referral backlogs and stuff as well. All right, let me take a look at the questions. If you click on the link, or if you do the camera on our fantastic QR code, it actually takes you to our website too. So let me take a look at the questions. I'll get you an answer. I got a question about devices that come in. Oh, besides Cadwell devices. So it's a fantastic question. If you send me in exactly what device you have, we can let you know. But we do have either a partnership or the ability to work with all of the major devices, HSTs as well as PSGs. Some of the maybe smaller, newer devices, we're probably talking to them. We may not have the ability to do it yet, but I bet it would be coming in the short term. We have a lot of our customers obviously are on the devices that a lot of people use, like Philips, ResMed, that sort of thing, and then obviously Cadwell we have a partnership with. So I bet we got you covered on it. The next question that came in is, how do we talk to our team about implementing something like this? It's a great question. We had quite a few people at the most recent meeting when I was at Sleep in Charlotte, discussing this, because they've got fantastic team, and you want to make sure that they feel supported and not challenged with what they're doing, right? But I've also had an opportunity to talk to a lot of our PSGTs. I didn't talk to as many at the sleep meeting, but at Arkansas, Missouri, some of the smaller events, and I can tell you, typically they don't say their favorite thing to do is to score leg movements and different things like that. Having a software that actually works at doing that first pass tends to be a big relief for them. So the people who really, really love to score are able to get to 2 times, if not more, usually more studies than they were getting to in the past. and they've got a lot of the maybe tedious parts of it removed from their plate, and they're able to focus on the stuff that they're really, really great at, which is finding those challenging things that can really help assist the physicians. And the ones who don't love scoring a lot have the ability to get through the studies, again, twice as fast, and then they free up. There's that more time to either, call the patients that maybe are at risk for a no-show because they're not understanding what's going to happen in the lab. So they can make sure that they're reducing those no-shows, or reaching out to the patients. If you have DME and you're responsible for compliance, reaching out to those patients and making sure that they have the success that they're looking for and the educational support that they need for their devices. We've had quite a few people recently, as I said, that are short-staffed, and their staff cannot get to everything they're doing. Numerous lab managers, especially on a weekend, maybe, where they come in after Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, and then Monday morning there's this giant scoring backlog that they just don't have extra staff just to come in on Monday to get those studies scored. Sorry, my cat's trying to come and say hello. Trying to get those studies scored for them. So just so many different situations. So my advice on how to talk to your team about something like this is really see, what do you like to do? Is there a way that if we can bring good scoring automation in, something that's going to assist you and support you rather than make your job harder, what else would you like to do? Do you want to spend more time with patients? Do you want to set up a sleep navigation program? Like I said, a lot of the providers that feel like their night staff is really overworked, and they're so appreciative of what they're doing that, the providers are jumping in and scoring studies. We can take the burden of that stuff off of them too. And so typically when the team feels included in that, at least the ones that I've been talking to at the shows, they're really looking forward to getting some help and not feeling like they're drowning at the end of the day. All right, guys. Thank you so much for spending time with us. As I am talking about freeing up time, I do appreciate the value of you guys taking 30 minutes out of your day to learn more about our product, and hopefully we have an opportunity to work with a lot of you in the near future. Keep me posted on anything you need, and have a great day. We'll talk to you later.